Defeated for the presidency by Donald Trump after an abbreviated campaign substituting for President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris did her duty on January 6th and certified Trump's Electoral College victory. It was a solemn but peaceful moment, far different from the certification of Biden's victory 4 years ago, when a Trump-inspired mob attacked the Capitol, trying to overturn the 2020 election results. But why did Harris lose? Was it the economy? Was it immigration? Was it simply because America has grown more conservative and she was too woke? Or was it Harris's laugh? Or the color of her pantsuits? Was it because of her race? What about her sex? We'll explore that today with our guest, Ashley Jordan, author of a new book, Unhappy Achiever, which focuses on the unfair challenges women face against men in the workplace and their daily lives.
I think that women are held to standards that not only higher standards, but also standards that they can never meet.
Throughout her life, Ashley has been a feminist activist, licensed attorney, public speaker, and a stay-at-home mom for her 3 kids. As a journalist, her works have appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, Huffington Post, among others. Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for being with us today on the Lean to the Left podcast. Now, tell me this. Do you believe that Harris lost the election to Trump because of unfair challenges rooted in sexism?
It's difficult to say exactly why Harris lost, and I couldn't in good conscience point to any one thing. That said, I will say that, of course, as a female candidate, as a woman of color, she certainly faces challenges that her opposing candidate, who is now about to be once again the president of the United States, does not face. And certainly those hurdles as a woman and a woman of color are real, and hurdles that women face every day in this country and certainly around the world.
Ashley, what are some of those hurdles you're talking about?
I think that women are held to standards that not only higher standards, but also standards that they can never meet. So for instance, as a female leader, you are expected to be all of the qualities that we would attribute to masculine leaders: decisive, powerful, strong. And yet at the same time, for women, there is still a lot of pressure to be perfect, to be kind, to be pleasing, to be, quote, likable, right? And I think that these are a lot of the same expectations that Hillary Clinton faced when she ran. And in that, it is some of these expectations on women that are in opposition to some of the masculine characteristics of leadership make it nearly impossible for them to meet every expectation, because the expectations on both sides are contradictory. If you are going to be a decisive leader, you are not always going to be likable. And for women, being strong, being decisive, being even, I'll say, authentic, being authentically themselves, when that rubs up against being perceived as pleasing, as kind, as there's a lot of other words I could use.
Go ahead, use them.
And you know what they are, Bob.
Go ahead, use them. Go ahead.
Yeah, not being
what are you, chicken?
Bitchy, not being a bitch.
There you go.
Those standards are contradictory to, at the same time, what women are asked to embody when we think of masculine characteristics of leadership. And the answer isn't that women should be one or the other. The answer is that both in truly authentic leaders who are acting in the best interest of all, they should embody both what we would typically consider as masculine and feminine characteristics, and they should utilize them both appropriately when needed. And so it's not that we necessarily need women to contort themselves to fit a definition they can never fit. It's that we need a new definition of what a leader looks like. And I would say that some of the problematic qualities of the leader that we've elected probably speak to that.
That was a nice way to put it.
I'm trying to fit the expectations for women, Bob, of being nice.
Oh, there you go. That's it. Uh-huh. All right. I was curious to know, as Harris's campaign was unfolding, did you see similarities between the way she was treated and what you faced in your life as a professional woman? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think that as a woman, for me, to participate in the public sector, we've been taught that we have to fit the masculine paradigm. And so we've been taught that equality looks like behaving and participating in the public sector just like men. We've been given the uniforms to wear. Say, as a law student, I was told when I started interviewing for jobs that I would be, as a young female attorney, if I wanted to get a job, I would be expected to appear in a navy blue pinstripe skirt suit. That was the uniform that I was told to wear. And I'll say the first day I was in a court of law as a young attorney, as a law clerk, actually, in that suit, a male attorney came up to me and started rubbing my shoulder and asked me what my suit was made of. These are,
What?
yeah,
What?
yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you ever go up to a male attorney and rub his shoulder and ask him what his suit was made of?
I absolutely did not. Absolutely did not. And never will, Bob. Let's make that very clear.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I share those anecdotes because the standard was very clear.
Yeah.
This is what is expected of you, and to the letter, here is the uniform that you are supposed to wear. And even in that uniform, on my first day in a court of law, I was still touched in a way that was inappropriate. I was objectified. I felt diminished and demeaned, and as if I was already being taken less seriously because of my sex, even in the prescribed uniform and doing all of the things that I was told to do. And so it is not, so women are always asked to fit these prescriptions, and most of the prescriptions are defined through the masculine expectation of what it looks like to participate in the workforce. So no matter what we do, even when we fit the definitions and the prescriptions, we aren't treated equitably. And so the issue isn't fitting the prescription set for us. The issue is advocating for the feminine and the masculine to be valued equally across culture, across society, and to create new definitions. And so I no longer show up in a uniform prescribed for me. I show up dressing exactly like I want to. And then I demand to be taken seriously in this uniform.
Do you, do you still practice law?
I do not, thank God. No, I do not.
All right.
Thank goodness, because I get to do this with you. This is way more fun. So
What's on your shirt there? What's it say?
there you go.
Come on, I want to say it. I can't say it. Carry
Okay.
yourself. What's it say?
Carry yourself with the confidence of a mediocre white man. It's my new uniform, Bob.
That's pretty cool. I'm pretty cool. I like that.
I wore it for you. I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah, I
thought
do. Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah. See what mine is? Hijack Nation.
I love that. I did notice that. I did notice that right when you sat down.
Yeah, that's because of this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's my book.
I love that.
Yeah.
My fellow author. Yes.
Yeah, it's the third iteration of Hijack Nation. They're all based on essays from my website, leantotheleft.net. As we went along during the Trump presidency and then the Biden presidency, I and people who write for me on Lean to the Left, we put together this book that tracks the developments through that period. And even though Trump won the election, I feel like it's insightful in terms of what we can expect from this guy going forward. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my book. We're here to talk about yours. But before we do that, I want to know from you, do you believe, based on what you've just said, that America will ever elect a female president?
Bob, yes. I do believe that. And I believe that because I see through the course of my work and through writing this book, women every day who aren't waiting for the prescriptions and the expectations and the definitions to change for them. They are changing. They are on their own personal journeys of coming into their own inner strength, wisdom, power, authenticity. And so they are preparing through changing themselves and their own lives to change the world and change the culture and make changes in the industries that they work in, and looking for ways to even bring the feminine into business, bring the feminine into healthcare, bring the feminine into education. And so a lot of these values that we've been told have no place in the public sector, women are getting ready to not only bring, but to revolutionize the industries that they work in. And so I think that sort of change is going to lead women in leadership at every level in new ways and in powerful ways, and in integration in our leaders, not just female leaders, but male leaders, bringing the values of the masculine values of leadership, of decisiveness, of power, of strength, in balance with feminine leader values of compassion, of love, of empathy, of sensitivity, right? We need to bring all of those values back into balance. And I think the lack of balance is indicative of why we have the president that we currently have. It's a very distorted version of masculine leadership and masculine values. He does not embody any true expression of masculinity. It is a distorted version. It is a toxic patriarchal version. And so, yes, I absolutely believe that we will have a female president. I am an eternal optimist, but I am not coming from that place in my answer. I believe that women are changing themselves in ways that is going to change our country and the world. So that's my answer.
That's a good answer. I was actually during Harris's campaign, I was convinced that women were going to put her over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so disappointed, honestly, with the results. And I was disappointed to see that the female support of Donald Trump actually increased. And I was shocked by that. Now, let's go to your book. Tell us about Unhappy Achiever, and where did you get the inspiration to write it, and what's the origin of its name?
So this is a funny story. Like so many writers, as a writer, the dream is to get published by the New York Times and to receive that byline. And for me, I didn't publish my first piece until October of 2019. And in June of 2021, I published my first piece with the New York Times. And so I had told myself that once I did that, I would feel validated as a writer. And that was like my big goal. And once I did that thing, I would feel the way that I wanted to feel. I would feel like I was legitimized. I would feel good. I could relax. And instead, Bob, when that day came, I felt nothing.
Really?
It did not feel the way that I thought I would feel. And so I turned to the most hallowed source of modern wisdom. I Google searched, what does it mean?
Okay.
When you achieve a major milestone or accomplishment and you feel nothing. And the first article that popped up said, "Are you an unhappy achiever?" And it was this gut check moment of, yes, I think I am an unhappy achiever. And I realized in that moment that unhappy achiever was this lens that I could view pretty much my entire life through, from early childhood to, at that time, the age of 37, that as a young child, I learned that I could earn what I perceived to be love through being really good and doing really good things. And so achievement became synonymous with love. If I did things that impressed people, they would love me. And so I realized that I had gone throughout my life from one milestone, one accomplishment, one box to be checked to the next. And that feeling of fulfillment or satisfaction or even self-love, confidence, authenticity was ever elusive. I never felt the way that I thought I would feel. And that was really a moment of reckoning for me and trying to figure out in this world where, in a capitalist culture where we're taught that money and things and doing big things will make us happy and fulfilled and content and complete. That wasn't it. I had built a picture perfect life and it felt outwardly perfect, but internally broken. And so Unhappy Achiever was the recognition and the catalyst for a much larger 4.5-year journey that I've been on.
Wow. Now, is what you've just described, is that why you're no longer a practicing attorney?
Yes, I went to law school in the vein of Unhappy Achiever. It was what would make my family proud.
What would make your family proud?
And I sucked at math and science, Bob. So doctor really didn't seem like
Yeah,
a good
well,
fit.
you know what? You're looking at a guy, you won't believe this story. But when I was in high school, I took geometry, I took algebra, and I took typing. And I had the same teacher for both. Okay. I had the same teacher for algebra and typing. I was flunking algebra and I was a whiz at typing. I can type like, I don't know, 80 words a minute. But so I went to my teacher and I said, "Hey, can I cut you a deal? Instead of you flunking me for algebra, how about giving me a C and giving me a C in typing? You don't need to give me an A in typing. Just give me a C. We'll just bargain like that." And she said, "Okay." So I got a C in algebra and I got a C in typing. And then the next year, when I guess it was my junior year, I went on to geometry and I flunked geometry horribly because I didn't know anything from algebra, which was the basis. So anyway, I don't know why I told you that, but
Because it's a perfect illustration of how we both find ourselves here today,
yeah,
right?
that's right. Because I sucked at math and science too. That's why I became a journalist. And
It's where we have to go when
that's
math and
right.
science
You know.
is a weakness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now your book talks about inner fulfillment. Inner fulfillment. I don't know how you find inner fulfillment when you got all these issues going on, but how did writing this book help you feel contented? And did it encourage others to find that same contentment?
Sure. This question really relates to what we were talking about earlier in terms of the expectations and the prescriptions and the boxes that all of us are asked to check, right? Especially women. I think the pressure on women to do so is even more stringent in many ways. And so for me, I was the unhappy achiever and I had done all of the things that we're told will make us happy, fulfilled, content, complete. I had the degrees, I had the professional credentials, I had the husband and the kids and the house and the stuff. And I didn't feel the way that I thought I would feel. And worse than that, I felt empty.
Ooh,
And I realized at 37 years old that I had absolutely no idea who I was, that I had
wow.
built a life and even a constructed version of myself based on being a good girl and who I was told I was supposed to be,
Hmm.
the version of me that would make my family and my grandmother proud.
Mhm.
And I had completely lost touch with who I actually was. And so the fulfillment came through deconstructing this life that I had built and this version of myself that I had created from the outside in order to reconstruct myself and my life from the inside out. And now I'll say, with the exception of my 3 beautiful children, every major aspect of my life has changed in 4.5 years. And it's the reason that I'm able to show up in this interview with you and laugh and have fun and be present, because all I'm doing is taking the skill set that I've built in authentic ways and being myself. And I'm this version of me, whether I'm here with you or whether I am with friends or wherever I am, because all I have to do is be me. But in order to do that, I had to figure out who I was. I didn't know her. And so the fulfillment lies, especially for women, in removing all of the masks that we've constructed to be good girls, to become the empowered, badass, authentic women that we were born to be, embracing the feminine values that feel right and true for us, as well as the masculine ones and everything in between. And so contentment lies in being ourselves. It's that simple, but it's also not, because in order to find yourself, you have to do all of the work and the healing that is required to deconstruct the masks and see yourself through all of the prescriptions that prevented you from being yourself in the first place. I always say it's not about becoming anything. It's about unbecoming all of the bullshit that obscured the beautiful beings that we were when we were born. And I think for women especially, that's where our power lies. And being yourself as a woman is a radical act of authenticity.
Okay. So you mentioned your three kids. So you have, I guess you're divorced based on what you just said, right?
I am, yes. I
Yeah.
am divorced. I'm a single woman, yes.
But you've got the kids, right?
I'm
In your
not going to give any date for this shirt.
okay. All right. Let's see here. When you were writing Unhappy Achiever, what challenges did you face that maybe you wouldn't have faced if you were a man?
I think because the women are always judged and scrutinized more harshly than men in general. But I'll say it, even for a woman to, we'll talk about even divorce and writing about a divorce. For a woman to leave a marriage in which she is not being abused physically, or there's no infidelity on the part of her spouse, for a woman to leave a marriage because it isn't everything it could and should be for herself and her partner, because she and her partner can't connect in all the ways that two people should, is still really radical and really scares people, because good women don't do that. Good women sacrifice themselves for their families. They martyr themselves for people that they love. They stay in a marriage that's good enough
Right.
to keep everyone comfortable. And a woman who says, no, I deserve to be in a true love partnership with a partner and equal that I can connect with on every level. And liberation is a two-way street. And so does my now ex-husband. He deserves the same. And if we are unable to meet each other in those needs, then love looks a lot like letting go sometimes, and showing our children that as a family, we aren't a family because of a marriage. We are a family because of love and truth and authenticity. For a woman to do that is still a radical act. And I'll say, for me, living the story that I write about in the book, that's a part of the story. You know, Bob, I had husbands, friends of mine, tell them they weren't allowed to be friends with me anymore, that they didn't want them hanging out with me. Like, if divorce was like a disease that they could catch. And so they can't institutionalize women like me like they could 100 years ago if you tried to do such things. But the social,
Let me tell you something. I'm divorced too, and and I experienced some of the same stuff after I split off with my ex, and we won't go into all the gory details.
And so to your point, though, you experienced that. And so for women, I just like everything else we're talking about, the social sanctions are even more severe. And so that is just one example of what I experienced living the stories that I write about in the book. But anytime a woman is brave enough to live a life of authenticity and to be radically and boldly herself, she it's the old adage, when women stop pleasing, people aren't pleased.
Hmm.
And that's the truth, whether it's in the public sector, in the workforce, whether it's in her private life. When a woman stops pleasing, people aren't pleased.
Okay. Now, if there was one piece of advice from the book that you could give every girl and woman, what would it be?
It is that she is beloved, not because of anything she'll ever do or become, but because of the authentic being that she was when she was born. And so there is nothing, there is no definition that women have to fit. There is no prescription that they need to meet that someone else set for them. All they have to do is tap into their own inner wisdom, their own truth, their own hearts to be the versions of themselves that they were then when they were born. And so I'll give a practical example of how to do that. Think of what you loved to do when you were 8 years old, because when we were 8 years old, we did whatever we did for the sake of joy, not because it would please our grandmother, not because it was a requirement to get a degree, not because it would get us a promotion. We did what we did because we loved it and it brought us joy. And so think about that version of yourself. What did she love? What lit her up from the inside out? And you don't have to make it your career. It is worth doing because it is who you are and you deserve it.
Okay. That's an interesting answer. It brought to mind when I was a little kid, about 8 years old. My dad was a preacher, and I used to have to go to these stupid, pardon me, you evangelicals, but I used to have to go to these weekly evangelising services where he would bring in these guys to be guest speakers and stuff. And my brother and I, my brother who was 6 and I was 8, we were sitting in the front row and we both pulled out our football whistles and let loose during the guys. It was going on and on. We figured that was enough. So I got beat
You're
afterward.
you're still blowing the whistle on people in a
That's
sense, right?
exactly
So yeah, you
that's
are
right.
absolutely doing what you were
Yeah,
doing.
that's right. What the hell? All right. What's up with you? What can people expect next from you?
So right now, writing requires me to be. Writing is a very solitary process where I'm alone. Like you, Bob. When I was 8, I used to ride my bike up and down my dead end street that I lived in. It was all retired folks, and so I used to ride my bike up and down. And I would just tell myself story. I would make up stories. And like you, I'm still doing what I loved to do when I was 8. But that exercise can be very solitary. And so the writing of the book was, a pretty isolated
Yeah.
creative process.
Hmm.
And now I get to share it and I get to have conversations like this and I get to meet with women every day at different events and
That's cool.
speak to them. And the whole point of this book is to share my stories to help illuminate the paths of other women and shine a light on their lives and their lived experiences. And so that is what I'm doing. I get to share my stories as an invitation to hear their stories and hopefully help them find their own way and their own paths forward to a life of truth and fulfillment. And so, to that end, I am sharing the book with the
Ex-
world and
Excellent.
having wonderful conversations like this.
Excellent. All right. So where can people find your book?
So, it is available wherever books are normally sold: Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can also go to unhappyachiever.com. And yeah, you can find it anywhere.
Okay. And in that vein, you guys, if you interested in checking out her book, I'll have a direct link to Amazon where you can find it. It'll be in the notes for this episode. That'll just make it easy if you want to do that. Anyway, thank you so much, Ashley. I really enjoyed talking to you. Sounds like you got your act together. You know what? I see these ads on TV they're not for lawyers, they're for money managers. But these two women, they always show up in these suits, these dark suits with these tops. I don't know what you call them, But anyway, they're opposing companies, but they have the same uniform on, and it just cracks me up.
That is, this is my uniform, Bob.
That's your uniform. This was mine too.
And they're so much more interesting than gray suits,
Well, I know.
right?
I used to work on Capitol Hill back in the day, and I had to wear a suit every damn day and go to all these cocktail parties and receptions and stuff for my boss. And I just hated it, absolutely hated it. And since I left Capitol Hill, I don't know if I've worn a suit maybe twice since then. I just can't stand it. Anyway, all right, listen, Ashley, I appreciate it very much. Enjoyed talking to you.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Hey guys, I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijack Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijack Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Through rigorous analysis and passionate storytelling, we shed light on the implications for our democracy.
I'm C.J. Waldron, and alongside Bob, we dissect the events that have led us to this pivotal moment in history. Each essay captures the urgency of our times and encourages readers to engage critically with the issues at hand.
Hijack Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness.
So please join us in this important conversation. Whether you're a seasoned political junkie, just starting to explore the issues, our essays offer valuable insights and thought-provoking discussions.
So get your copy of Hijack Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order. Together we can navigate the challenges ahead. Thanks so much for your support.